What up, y'all? This is your boy DMV Ken, and we are back with another episode of the Alumni Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today, we got three very important and dope subjects. So the first thing that I want to talk about is this wonderful movie that's coming out today that I am going to see today is Judas and the Black Messiah, the story of Fred Hampton and the infiltration of Chicago's Black Panther Party chapter. And so definitely that's something that I want to talk about. So the second thing that I want to talk about is Dave Chappelle. It appears that Dave Chappelle has won his battle with Comedy Central and won back the rights to his show. And I also want to talk about Monique. I believe Monique also called upon the people to boycott Netflix. And I want to talk about double standards. How come we supported Dave Chappelle, but we didn't support Monique? And the third and final thing that I want to talk about is the influence that social media has on our children. That's teaching our children all type of things. They're getting access to information early. And so they're learning and they're exploring these new different things. And they're labeling themselves sometimes things before they even truly get an opportunity to live. So I want to talk about those three things. Let's get right off into it. This is the Alumni Podcast. Thank y'all for joining us. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment down at the bottom. I would love to hear your feedback. So let's get into it. Episode number 9, the Alumni Podcast. Let's get it. What's going on, family? This is your boy KB Supreme, aka DMV Ken. We are back with episode number 9 of the Alumni Podcast. First of all, thank y'all for joining us. I appreciate you. Go ahead, hit that subscribe, that like button, tap that notification bell so you can be alerted when we drop new content. And also throw some comments down at the bottom. Chime in on the conversation. Your feedback is much appreciated. All right, so let's get into episode number 9. First, we're going to start off with story time, and I'm not going to give you a long story on this episode. I'm going to get right off into it. It's going to be a short story. Actually, it's actually a grievance that I have, a complaint that I have, and I'm just going to tap into a small little story to actually get into my complaint. So I'm not going to give you something long this episode. Let's get into it. So I went to the movies yesterday to see Judas and the Black Messiah, right? Went to Cinema Cafe. Like to go to Cinema Cafe. You can sit down, eat in the movie theater, get you a nice little grub on, get you a nice little soda or drink or whatever may have you, and enjoy the movie. And I was in there pretty much by myself. I think it was only about 3 of us in there, right? So movie nice and quiet, comfortable, had enough space, social distancing maintained, so it was all good. So anyway, I ordered some food and a drink, and you know, the lady brought it to me and stuff like that, and so everything was all good. So by the end of the movie, my bill came, and I got my card out, went, gave it to the lady. She went pay my bill, and then once I got my bill back, I noticed something that I see all the time. Right after my initial payment, there's the tip thing. So I have a total of what I just paid, but then there's a little tip sign or column at the bottom of that, right? And so now I have to go back and recalculate a tip that's not going to show on my card immediately, and then I have to wait a few days or whenever they decide to process it for that to actually appear on my statement. And now I want to get into my agreement. So that was kind of the story. Like, I am getting a little frustrated with this whole tip thing. And I don't want to sound cheap here because I'm not a cheap person. I tip all the time. And so this is why I get a little frustrated about it, because I try to be a good tipper. But when I actually think about the concept of tipping, it's starting to irritate me a little bit, right? Because the lady from yesterday, she was cool, but she didn't perform any exceptional service. I mean, she just did her job, and that's cool. But back in the day, and I'm not extremely old, but I'm not extremely young neither. But you used to get a tip for exceptional service. Now, it's almost like you expected to give a tip just for regular non-exceptional service. It wasn't like she attended to my every need. It wasn't like every time I needed her, I was able to turn around and she was there. It wasn't like that my drink was extra special or she served me something that wasn't on the menu or saved a child from choking or God forbid or anything like that. It was just she did her job, right? The job she gets paid to do. And that's cool. I'm going to tip you anyway, but the entitlement or the expectation that I got to tip and then to not allow me to calculate it before you swipe my card. Now I have to wait for that to appear several days, if not weeks later. It frustrates me a little bit, right? Because I look at a normal day. Let's say Valentine's Day is coming up, right? And so let's say you go out on a date. You go and you get your hair cut first thing that morning. You're going to tip your barber, right? Other people we tip. If you decide to get a tattoo, you're going to tip your tattoo artist. You got to tip if you go out to a restaurant or if you go out to a early cap and you have some drinks or whatever, you got to tip your waiter or your waitress there. You got to tip the bartender. You have to tip the Uber driver. You have to tip the Uber Eats driver. You got to tip the bagger at the grocery store. Some stores and some restaurants have a tip jar right there at the counter. You got to tip your dealer if you go gamble or something like that. You got to tip everybody. I remember back home, because we love to order from Eastern Carryout back home, a nice little Chinese spot up the street from the house. We love to order from there. And one time I remember I ordered the whole family some food, came up to about $80-something. And the guy pulled up, and down in DC, they don't like to get out the car no more because I remember back in the day, the knuckleheads used to rob them. And I get that, right? So my man pulls up and he calls me on the phone and said, I'm out front, I'm pulling up. So he let me know he pull up because he don't want to wait out there too long. So I go out there and I meet him. I go up to his car. He doesn't even get out his car. He rolls his window down. He hands me my food. I hand him the money and he looks at me like, am I going, you going to tip me like, and then I give him tip and then he wants more. And it's like, bro, all you didn't go back there and you didn't prepare the food. You didn't bag the food. All you did was you went and you grabbed it from the lady who prepared it and bagged it. You put it in your car. You drove up the street to my house. I came outside to your car that you didn't even have to get out the front seat. You just rolled down the window and handed me my food. I didn't even check to see if my food is all in there yet. I didn't even check to see if my chicken is all the way cooked. I didn't check to do anything. And you're already feeling that you're entitled to a tip? Are you kidding me, my man? And then gonna complain about the tip that I gave you? My issue is with this whole tipping thing, right? Like sometimes, like we have a nice little spot we like to go and get tacos from down in Norfolk, Virginia. So once I order my food and they give me the total, I swipe my card and I have to sign. There's a tip option right there. Like, you haven't even prepared my food yet. You haven't even started yet. So before I even get to see if my food is cooked, if it's right, if it tastes good, you're already expecting me to tip you. You haven't even earned it yet. So here's my issue, and here's my advice to people, because I do understand that there are people that are paid probably below minimum wage or right at minimum wage or minimum wage, and they have to depend on tips for a living. So here's my advice to you if you have to depend on a tip for a living. And I'm not downing you, I'm not belittling you, I'm not knocking you, because I understand. But my issue is the entitlement or the expectation that I owe you for doing your job. So here's my advice to you. If you have to depend on tips for a living, to make a living, then you need to start practicing how to perform exceptional service. If you perform exceptional service, I will feel comfortable and not have an issue with giving you a great, because I've always been a great tipper. But my complaint about it is people take advantage and they take you for granted and they feel like you owe them or they're entitled to something that they have not earned yet. And we need to get back to the days in society where people earn things instead of just expecting it just because it's something I'm quote unquote supposed to do. Now, I don't have to do anything. You have to perform exceptional service. to get an exceptional tip or just get a tip in general. Don't just be regular out here and expecting me to have to tip you every time. All right, so that's my story time. That's my grievance. If you disagree with me, let me know down in the comments. Maybe that's just me, but that's just the way I feel about it. Love it, hate it. It's all good. All right, so let's get into our first topic. Yesterday, I went to see the movie, man. I went to see Judas and the Black Messiah. This is the story of the mighty Fred Hampton of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panthers, headquarters stationed in Chicago, Illinois. And it was also the story about William O'Neal, the FBI informant, black man who infiltrated the Black Panther Party, Illinois chapter, and betrayed the party, betrayed the chairman, Fred Hampton, and played a major role in the assassination of Brother Hampton. All right. And obviously, I'm familiar with Black history. I'm familiar with the history of our people. I'm familiar with Fred Hampton, his story, the Black Panther Party. I'm familiar with William O'Neal. I'm familiar with his interview on Eyes on the Prize 2, and then his suicide shortly after that interview. And here's what I took from that movie, right? One, why is it always for you think about Denmark Vesey, you think about Brother Malcolm X, you even think about Dr. Martin Luther King, you think about all these great figures in American history, because I'm not going to even just say black, I'm going to say American history. And you think back and you always come back to your own people being used against you to destroy mighty men for their own selfish and personal gain. That they don't always see the bigger picture, but they always, for their own personal gain, will destroy greatness. And that is the only way. It's always been the route that the powers that be have always used to destroy any type of movement we've ever had, is to turn us against each other and always have a turncoat. See, a Judas is the worst. Judas is the worst person in the Bible to me. A Judas is the worst type of person ever. A Judas is somebody that will get close to you, that will show you love, somebody that will gain your trust, that you will put your life in their hand. You will put the lives of your family in their hand. And all the while, they're setting you up for the kill. They're fattening you up for the slaughter. And they'll sit there with your family and they'll smile, and you'll trust them with your life, your livelihood, your children, and they'll smile in your face. And all the while, for their own selfish personal gain, will be setting you up for the kill against your enemy. The Judas is the worst type of enemy, the worst type of person, because you put your trust in them. William O'Neal didn't care about Fred Hampton's family, his wife. You sat there, you seen his wife pregnant, you seen his family, you seen what he was doing for the community and the children and the babies and everything, and you didn't care because you only cared about your own self-preservation. And that's what irritates me about today's society and today's so-called advocates and today's so-called activists. There ain't no activists out there no more. Our generation don't have no generation like our no activists and no true warriors, no true men and women for the people like our great grandparents had and our grandparents had in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. We don't have them anymore. All we got is a bunch of fakers that will care about self-preservation first over anything. They'll never sacrifice their livelihood. They'll never put their family on the line for the people. They will never risk their lives and their livelihood for the people. There's always a limit to how far they'll go. And so they fake you and they trick you and they make you believe that they advocate for you and that they're the voice for you. And they're not. Because they will always choose self-preservation over anything and everything and the people every day, any day. They will choose self-preservation. Try them. Try the fruit, judge the fruit, or judge the tree by the fruit that it bears. All these people that are acting like they're advocates, like they're Huey P. Newtons and they're Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton was 21 years old. He was still somewhat a kid when he gave his life for the people. He ain't even lived a full life, 21 years old, and we got 40 and 30s and 50 years old out here faking it and leading y'all astray and making y'all think that they advocate, that they on the front lines for y'all. And they only using you for their own selfish personal gains. They have handlers that tell them what to do. They're profiting off of social justice. They're profiting off of Black power. They're profiting off of this stuff. They have self-preservation first. So when we look at people like Fred Hampton, when they and this is why. Let me ask you. Let me pose this question, right? Because I don't have all the answers. I don't have the. Look, you might have the answers, Sway, or do you not have the answers? Let me pose this question to you, right? Because the FBI took Dr. King down. The FBI took Malcolm X down. And you may think they didn't, but guess what? Yes, they did. Don't believe what they tell you. You may think that these people out here faking the funk advocate for you. Let me ask you something. How come all these people, how come there's no FBI conspiracy against all these folks out here faking the funk? Why? Because they're being blackballed from here and there? They still making good money, a good living. They're still profiting off of it. But how come there's no real threat? How come none of these folks are being framed and going to jail like a Dr. King? How come they're not being arrested like a Fred Hampton and a Huey P. Newton? And the H-Rap Brown? How come, huh? Because they're no threat, man. They are no real threat to the system. They're not. Like we had in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And some little bit in the 70s, I guess. They're no threat. And so I'm sick of people faking the funk. And I'm sick of the people falling in line and believing these folks when they don't have your best interest at heart, or they're tainted. We don't have no true activists anymore. We do, but they don't. But I apologize. We do have true activists, but they're so small that nobody, the people that have the money and the power to push these folks up and to elevate these folks, they'll never do it. And so they always stay small time to where hardly nobody knows about them unless you're living in that city. So I take that back. We do have true advocates and true people that are out there for the people. We do. They're just so small time that nobody knows about them outside of their own city. And the people that have the resources in our community that are so-called advocates and so-called the voice of the people that have the money and the resources to push those people up, to help build what those people are doing, they're not. But y'all want to put all y'all trust and y'all love and y'all admiration into rappers and comedians and entertainers and a bunch of folks that just faking the funk and ain't about nothing but self-preservation. And when you have a true appreciation for our history, and you have a true appreciation for what our ancestors did and the people that came before us and the heroes of our great grandparents and our grandparents of the 40s, 50s, 60s, when you have true admiration for those that fought the good fight, that we may have the liberties and the rights, even though we're still struggling, that we may have the right to vote. There's people out there that just, they don't even care, but they mock people that vote. Yeah, you didn't have to fight for that right. You didn't die. You wasn't part of those sit-ins. You wasn't getting beat and slaughtered
for this right. So because you didn't have to pay the cost of it, you take it for granted and you mock and you laugh because you're not in tune with our history, or you disregard it because you think that because you have a little knowledge or something like that on something different that you're all high and mighty. But you a sideliner. You a Facebook and a YouTube talker. You a social media talker, a social media advocate or an activist. You ain't out there really on them streets about that life. You wasn't in those sit-ins. You not out there marching and putting your life and your family and everything on the line for anybody. Because you're going to choose self-preservation first. While you sitting on Facebook and you sitting there and you talking all this stuff about white people, guess what? Every day you going to get up and go to your job and you're going to say, yes, sir. So stop faking the funk. This is not a war against any other race. It's not a war against white people. This is us together, unified, and building our own people up socially, economically, and politically. We have to build our own community up. And what we have to do is watch out for the Judases, like a William O'Neal, that'll be planted in our community and destroy our people. William O'Neal wasn't the only rat. He wasn't the only informant in the Black Panther Party. They had informants in almost every chapter that was destroying it from the inside and bringing it down. It's always one brother that would destroy the whole movement for his own personal gain instead of just going to jail and doing his time like a man for the crimes you committed. But you sold out. And then you find out later on in life you can't live what you did. You can't live with yourself. And just like Judas did, you take your own life because you go out a cowardly way, because you did a cowardly thing, because you brought down the whole movement, and it's something that you can't live with. Judas is the worst type of person. Powerful movie. Powerful movie. And I'm going to tell you, man, I can't even pronounce his last name. Daniel. Y'all help me out here, man. That dude is a fantastic actor, man. I appreciated what he did in Get Out. Love what he did in Black Panther. I know he's had several other movies that he's done, but man, this Judas and the Black Messiah, he's done a fabulous job playing Fred Hampton. He really got down his speech and really got down the way he talks. Little bit, you can hear a little bit of differences in it, but you can see he really put a lot of effort into trying to get down his accent, the way he talks. Did a very, very fantastic job with this movie. I thought it was a very powerful movie. I thought it got straight to the point. And it really focuses a lot on William O'Neal. But it was a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed it, man. I really enjoyed it. And what Fred Hampton was doing was going to be major, man. Look at Chicago today, man. Look at Chicago today. Imagine if Brother Hampton's vision came to fruition, where he was able to unite the Black Panther Party and the local gangs in the city, and then unite them globally, or not even globally, but throughout the United States in every city, bro. Imagine the power of what that man was building. He terrified them. That vision goes beyond. Like, see, that's a vision right there. It terrified the establishment, bro. They had to assassinate him. And he understood what he was putting at risk. And like he said in the movie, man, we should be so lucky to die for the people. Man, that movie was powerful, bro. That movie was powerful, man. Loved it. All right, so let's get into our second subject, man. I want to talk about Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle apparently just won his battle with Comedy Central. Got paid millions of dollars from what he said, and got the rights back to a show, I believe. And I believe the show is going back to Netflix. And he has control back over the show. And I do have some questions, like how, because I imagine for Comedy Central to do what they did, they have to earn some type of rights, or if not, the rights to his show. So for them to do it and not pay him anything, they have to have the rights to the show, or bought it from somebody. So I'm not understanding that just because we did not watch the show, they just automatically gave Dave back his show, paid him also for airing the show, and just like, oh, now everything is peachy because we stopped watching the show. I don't think business work like that, man. So we're missing something. We are missing some part of this story that we have not been told, because I may be wrong and I don't know Dave Chappelle business. I don't understand the music, but I do understand common sense. I do understand thinking rationally. Like, how are they able to air your show without paying you? And then because we didn't watch, which I'm not sure if people really boycotted Comedy Central. Maybe y'all did, but I don't know how many of us actually just watched Comedy Central. Maybe even if we didn't have a clue that this was going on with David Chappelle because I just imagine that this generation, like our generation, like Dave Chappelle show, I know a lot of us seen it through it, but is it dated? And I'm not hating on Dave Chappelle. Please don't take this as hating on Dave Chappelle. I'm just trying to work this out rationally in my brain. All right. Is Dave Chappelle's comedy show dated? Like, are we clamoring to Comedy Central to watch the Chappelle show? Or it's just that we don't watch Comedy Central? All right. But anyway, whatever we so-called did work. So he apparently got his money, his show, control of his show back, and the show going back to Netflix, or whoever he wanted to have control of it got it back. But I just don't understand how that worked, just because we didn't watch the show, that he got everything he wanted. Like, to me, there's something that's missing in the middle of all this. We only get half the story about this, or just a piece or a portion or a small portion of it. Anyway, so the people are excited. They onto the post, power to the people. We did it. Shows the power of black folks, shows the power of the people when we unite together and we fight for the cause. Dave got his millions. Dave got his show back. Dave got control back. We did it. I posed the question, what did we actually do? What did we get? Like, what did we do? What did we do? I don't have the answers. Y'all tell me, what did we do? Dave said, I'm coming to my real boss. I'm coming to the people. What did the people get from this? Because Dave said, I got my millions. I got my show back. I got. And that's cool, Dave. You got. Happy for you, Dave. This ain't no hate against Dave, man. Dave is an awesome comedian. He real, man. Probably my favorite comedian, because he real, bro. He don't hold no punches. So this is not the slight against Dave. Dave, do what you got to do. My thing is the people. Don't be fooled, man. Like, y'all got to stop allowing yourselves to be used and then get buffed up like y'all did, like we did something, man. Like, people was under there. Like, I posed a question, like, what did we do? How did this benefit our community collectively in any way? And people was like, it showed the power that we can have as a people when we come together. So I was like, well, is this a significant event that show you that as a people we have power if we unite and come together? I said the 1955 Montgomery Boy Buscott wasn't an event that showed you if we come together we have power. The Civil Rights Movement, that wasn't the 1966 formation of the Black Panther Party. That wasn't. What about the Million Man March, 1998 Million Man March? That didn't show you that we had power if we collectively come together? What about the 2008 inauguration of Barack Obama? That didn't show you, even Joe Biden being elected president. You don't think that the African American community came out because he selected Kamala Harris? You don't think that collectively? So this is the significant event. Dave Chappelle getting the rights back to his show is a significant event to you that show you that if we come together as a people, this is the power that we can display. We are in a sad state of affairs if this is the event. Our power should be used to build our people up socially, economically, politically, and spiritually. And not necessarily in that order. That's where our power should be, not this. This is cool. This is cool, but this is not a significant event. This is small potatoes to what history has already shown us that we can accomplish if we come together united. My problem is we have to stop being so gullible and so sheepish that any actor, actress, or musician, when they want the masters back to something that they sold a long time ago. And I'm not blaming them, because when you young starving artist and you trying to get into the music business and you trying to get into the acting business and you just trying to get your break and somebody offers you an opportunity, you take it. Even if it's selling all the ownership to your intellectual property, you take it. I get it. I'm not knocking them for that. But the fact is, when you make that decision and now your intellectual property is owned by somebody else, you then, when you want your property back, when they're misusing you and mistreating you for something that you sold a long time ago, then you come to the people and say, I want the people to boycott for my own personal gain. That's my issue. Monique did it. What's the difference between what Monique did and what Dave did? The community mocked and laughed and belittled Monique, but then you supported Dave. This is the same thing that Joe Budden was dealing with Spotify. And his own people, in the midst of his battle with Spotify, came out against him. So tell me, what's the difference? What's the difference? Both using the community for their own personal gain. And then they act like, no, I'm doing this for... Do you think that if Monique got offered a high salary for Netflix to do her special, and then Wanda Sykes was offered lower, that Monique would reject Netflix and boycott Netflix from, even if they pay her Dave Chappelle money? Do you think that she would decline that for the sake of Wanda Sykes getting a low offer? No, because she'll think about self-preservation first. Do you think that that Dave Chappelle saw what Monique was going through and said, you know what, this is right. Let me boycott Netflix so I can help pull my sister up so they'll treat her right? Do you think he did that? No. You pay me my money, I'm good with you. You and I good. We have a good relationship, so I'm not going to come out against you. So self-preservation. So some of these people will act like they for the people, but they really not for the people. They for themselves at the end of the day. And they'll use you as the people. They'll use us as the people for their own personal gain and make it appear that, oh, y'all displaying y'all power. Y'all did it. Y'all did it. Come on, bro. We got to be better than that. This is a small potatoes. This is not a significant event. And this is where I'm trying to get our people to elevate our minds a little bit higher, to know that our power is more than just, this is small potatoes. This is just a small remnant of what we have already accomplished and what we can accomplish. Great power is what Fred Hampton displayed. Great power is what Marcus Garvey displayed. Great power is what Huey P. Newton and Medgar Evers, what Harriet Tubman displayed. Great power is what you're seeing in Atlanta right now with Stacey Abrams. That is great power. That is power to the people. What Stacey Abrams is doing in Atlanta, in the state of Georgia, what Stacey Abrams is doing in the state of Georgia is power to the people. There is nothing that just happened with Dave Chappelle that even minutely compares to what the people are doing in the state of Georgia, or did in the state of Georgia under the leadership of Stacey Abrams. So don't sit here and tell me that Dave Chappelle getting the rights back to his show from Comedy Central is the significant event of power displayed by black people if we're unified. Don't tell me that, because then you'll make me mad. All right, so the final topic we want to talk about today is social media and its impact on our children, right? So I always say this: our children have access to information far greater than we have ever had in any generation. Digital platforms have allowed them to have access to information at their fingertips through their phones, their iPads, through their tablets, anything electronic, sometimes even television. Like the things that we were learning at 13, 14, 15 years old, our children are learning at ages 7, 8, maybe even younger. They have access to information, and we can't watch them 24 hours a day, so we can't always monitor all the time their online activity and what type of information that they're putting in their brains and their spirit. And so a lot of times they're being influenced by a lot of the things that they're searching, reading. Some of the things that they're into may tell them that they should label themselves this, or they should feel and think these type of ways. And it's scary as a parent because you tried your best to raise and teach your children in the way that you believe is right and that the way that you believe they should go, but they'll ultimately find their way and they'll find themselves. But the scary part of it is not that that they'll find themselves, that they'll possibly even become something or feel that there's something that you might not necessarily agree with. It's the fact that they're being coached to believe that there's something before they even have an opportunity to live life, before they have an opportunity to be in their first real relationship or find love or heartbreak or pay their first bill or have their first level of responsibility. Like they're being already pushed into believing that they're this gender or their sexuality is this, or and it's like you haven't experienced anything yet. And that's the scary part about this whole social media thing. Our kids are so easily influenced, and we as parents have to be more cautious to it. And then you're also being forced to be accepting of it. Like if you feel like I don't agree with this, then you're a bad parent or you're not supportive. And it's just like, well, no, I just want you to not necessarily label yourself right away, but just give yourself time to live life and to experience new things. And then once you become old enough and you have experienced things, then you can make an informed decision. And I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with is a child who hasn't experienced anything now saying I'm this when you haven't even lived life yet. And I know that it's social media influenced. And so this is something that we as a society, we have to monitor. We have to start to coach to say it's okay to feel certain things. It's okay to be curious about certain things. It's okay to seek information, but do it safely, because I always encourage parents to keep the open lines of communication with your kids. Don't, shut down how they feel and some of the things that they inquire about. Like yeah, it's okay. Regardless of whether I agree with it or not, it's okay to feel things. It's okay to explore and seek information. And why do I feel this way? Why? But not to assume and say, I'm this, before you actually have time to live life. And it should be okay as a parent. It should be okay as a loved one to express those things without being labeled as your phobia or you're non-supportive or you're anything like that. It's okay. And we as a society, we have to stop bullying and pushing our agendas on people, regardless of whether it's political, whether it's sexual, whether it's religion. I mean, whatever your feelings is, you can't forcibly put them on people. We have to stop that, man. And we got to give people the freedom to feel the way they want to feel. and then also give them time to work through these new changes that's going on in their family and their lives and things like that. So that's just my opinion. I'm not going to go too far into it because I know we're living in a society where everybody's so darn sensitive. So I'm going to stop that there. But anyway, those are my thoughts. That was the Alumni Podcast. Thank y'all for listening. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. Do all those wonderful things. I appreciate it. And again, don't forget, Queen V is still in pocket. She's still ready to go. She's ready to rock and roll, and so she will be back. I know I keep saying that, but every time I get ready to record, I always do it at probably a time that's not good for her at the moment. But I be having these things on my brain that I just gotta get off, and so sometimes I'll just I gotta record an episode tonight, so I'll just go right off into it. But she's ready to go, man. She's excited, and so I'm gonna try to schedule the next podcast around her schedule so she can definitely be on. All right, so I appreciate y'all once again, family. Much love. Go ahead and join the conversation down in the comment section, and you will hear me talk back to you because I appreciate the engagement. This has been Alumni Podcast, episode number 9. Love you, family. We out.